Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Paranormal Pete Show. I'm your host, Peter Orbea, and we are on Let's Talk Radio, WLTK-DB.com. You can find us everywhere, all the streaming services, just by searching WLTK-DB, and that's Let's Talk Radio. You can also look that up as well. So hopefully let us know if you're watching from YouTube tonight, or Twitch, or Facebook, or Twitter. You can comment and I'll be able to see that. So let us know where you are listening from or viewing from tonight. And if you are on the East Coast listening and viewing, thanks for staying up and sticking it out with us tonight. I know it gets pretty late over there, and hope everybody's enjoying the show. I just want to thank all the people following the show. It's very humbling, and the goal of the show is to bring the stories and the experiences and beyond that in the paranormal. So thank you everybody for listening and following. But and if you can't catch the live show, which is pretty normal nowadays since we're also busy doing the adulting thing, you can catch the archives. They're pretty much anywhere you get your favorite podcast. So just look up WLTK-DB, or you can look up the show names. And by the way, there's also other great programming on the show, on the station here. There's shows each night of the week. So there's something cool going on every day. So I encourage you to please check out all the other shows. And if you've been to the website lately, you might notice it looks a little different. And big thanks to Todd Bates, host of Haunted Voices, and all the work he's put in on the website to make it a really cool experience. So if you haven't been there and you just pretty much catch us on YouTube or Facebook, go check out the website, WLTKDB.com. And it's fun to go through. It's just a fun experience. So kudos to Todd for doing all the hard work there. And we've got new merch in the station shop. So get your t-shirts and blankets. I think there's yoga pants, might be golf balls. I mean, you get pretty much anything you can think of, but there's some really cool shirts. And what's new this week is there are shirts for each show. So personalized shirts for each show. So there's Haunted Voices t-shirts, Afterlife Chronicles, The Good Shit Show. All the shows have their own t-shirts. So if you like one of the shows, support them. Go ahead and get a shirt. And check out all that we have to offer on the station merch page. So a lot of cool stuff going on, and there's going to be something even bigger coming up in October, and we'll do some announcing of that very soon. But we've got a lot of cool things going on, so make sure you go through the website. And there's Linda Myers. Hey, thanks for listening, Linda. Linda is a great friend of the show. She's an investigator and a psychic as well, and she's been a guest on the show, and we'll have to have her back soon. But thanks for listening, Linda. Appreciate all of the support you give. So if you just want to say hi, go ahead and just comment on there. Some other things coming up. I'm super stoked with at least the way things are going in Washington, pandemic wise. I've got my Ghost Walks tour season coming up, and that's going to start October 1st. Pretty much every Friday and Saturday in October, with the exception of the 15th and 16th. But the Ghost Walks are coming back, so I'm really super excited about that. Last year, I was able to follow whatever public health guidelines there were and be able to do a little bit, but it's going to be exciting and it'll still be safe with having larger groups of people this year. But I'm just excited to share this little town of Port Gamble where I'm at. This is the town I will haunt someday after I die, I'm sure. Hi, Lindsay. Thanks for listening. And so, anyways, I'm excited for the Ghost Walks to start. And that also means in November that special investigations will start of the Walker Ames house. So those are public investigations, 3 hours long, and I can help lead the investigation. And they're always really interesting. So there's always something new going on. So those will be coming up. So just go to Port Gamble Paranormal on my hat here.com, and you can get tickets for the Ghost Walks coming up. So hopefully we'll see you there. And if you find out about them from the show here, just let me know you've heard about it on the show. So I mentioned I won't be doing tours on October 15th and 16th because I've been lucky enough and have this distinguished honor to be speaking at a new paranormal conference in Centralia, Washington on October 15th. And that is in addition to the Supernatural Historic Folly Ghost Tour and Dark Market that they've been doing the past few years. So they wanted to introduce a paranormal conference last year, and then, of course, 2020 had other ideas. And so they're doing it this year. And I'm really honored and excited to be a speaker there and on October 15th. So that's when the paranormal conference is. It's just one day, followed by Saturday with the dark market and also the ghost tours. So I can't wait to go and see what that's all about. Centralia just sounds really interesting. It's got a lot of interesting history in there. And so I just can't wait to go and check it out. So that's going to be coming up, and you can go to centraliadowntownfestivals.com/dark market and to get more information on that. So the conference is going to be held in the Lewis and Clark Event Center, which looks like an awesome place. I've never been there. If anybody's ever been there, go ahead and comment. But I'm really excited for that. So go to centraliadowntownfestivals.com/dark market and get more information. So that's coming up. I'm really excited about that. And then, of course, we have the Port Gamble Ghost Conference coming up. It's the 12th annual. I can't believe it. The last in person we had was the 10th annual. And so I'm really looking forward to planning an in person conference. And it's going to be located right here in historic Port Gamble, Washington. And it's a great place to learn a lot about the paranormal. I feel like I've learned so much from the speakers, from the vendors that are there, from the classes, and just meeting people. So it's a great place if you're looking to kind of get some more knowledge on the paranormal field. This is a great place. I always am so lucky to get some of the best, I think, in the field for researching, and there's a lot of great people up here in the Pacific Northwest. And we also had Jody Emmons comment there. Thanks for listening and tuning in. I'm glad you didn't miss it either. So thanks for commenting. So the Ghost Conference, November 5th through 7th, and the speaker and class applications are online, available for download, and then you can send them back. And the vendor form is also there, the vendor application, and it's a 3-day conference. If you go to portgamble.com/ghost conference, then you'll find it, and that's where all the details, as the planning commences, that's where all the details will be. We kind of held off on planning and just to make sure that our state was going to reopen, and so now it's a mad dash to get it all put together. So portgamble.com/ghost conference. And I hope you'll check that out. It's, again, a great place to learn stuff. You have a real good chance of having a personal experience with the paranormal. With the investigations we do, we get to cover usually up to about 7 buildings throughout the weekend. And so you have a lot of different opportunities to be in some places that are known to have paranormal activity. So I hope to see you there. And again, that's portgamble.com/ghost conference. And on a personal note, really excited about my band, Steady Rock Cosmonaut. I always feel weird about saying my band, but the band I'm in. We haven't played a gig since March 6th of 2020. And we've got Port Gamble Summer Fair coming up on Sunday, August 8th from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. And we're playing that. So I'm super excited to get out and play a gig. It'll be outdoors. Outdoor gigs are always super fun to play. So if you're interested in hearing some original music, there's a great lineup coming up for that. We got Mikey Haslip, good buddy of mine, James Honeycutt, amazing musician, and the Tammy Frost Trio, all amazing musicians, and then Steady Rock Cosmonaut. And we're just going to come in and knock your socks off. So really excited to get out and play. So I just wanted to get that out there because I'm just excited about it. Got some great guests coming up for the month of August. and one for September so far that I will probably announce next week. I'm really excited. And so next Tuesday, we've got Michelle LeBaron and the Ghost Magnet. She's coming up next Tuesday on August 3rd. And then I've got Darren Thompson from Whisper here in Washington. Of course, he's just moved, but the team is based out of Washington, and he's coming up on the 10th. And then I've got Psychic Mary Beckman coming on August 24th. And then a longtime Port Gamble Ghost Conference friend. She's a great person. I'm so excited to have her on the show on August 31st. It's going to be Nkasha Amenti will be my special guest. So a lot of great shows coming up in August. And by the way, if you're out there in the paranormal field and you're interested in being a guest on the show, if you go to WLTK-DB.com and click on the shows, you can see how to get a hold of me to be a guest on the show. All right. Well, now that I've done all my housekeeping and shameless self-promotion here on the show, I'm really excited for tonight's special guest. She's one of the busiest ladies in the paranormal field, and glad we're able to get her on the show. And she's just really fun to talk to, and she's got a great perspective on the paranormal and psychic mediumship. And so I'd like to have everybody please welcome Medium Sarah Lemos to the show.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey, thanks for coming on the show. Welcome.
Thanks, Pete.
Now, I will encourage everybody out there, if you want to ask a question, to either one of us, please do. Audience participation and joining the show and being a part of it, that's what it's all about. I love that stuff. So throughout the show, if you've got a question, just go ahead and comment on whatever platform you're watching the show from, and we'll see that and do our best to answer the questions. So, or if you just want to say hi and let us know where you're from, let us know where you're listening from. We had a guy in Germany listening, and I don't know if he still does. If you're still out there, say hello. Although it's early morning there, so I get it. Rhonda S. Hello, Pete. Hi, Sarah. Thanks for listening. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And what have you been up to lately? How much time do we have?
Exactly. So lately, honestly, I took some time, personal time, and went down and did a ghost hunt for myself. So we went down to Ione, California, and hit Preston Castle. And I know a lot of you guys have been to Preston Castle. Oh my gosh, my mind was blown.
So I haven't been there yet.
You haven't been there?
I haven't been there yet. I know. I got to go.
You really, really do. They're just an incredible group of humans that are running the place. And on top of that, the experiences we had were mind-boggling. They were literally, I was scratched 8 times. It was incredible.
Whoa.
Incredible.
That's a lot. So what did that feel like when you were getting scratched?
It doesn't, I've been to a lot of different places, and that's one thing that doesn't scare me, scratches and things like that. Mm-hmm. After the 3rd time, I looked at some of the guys that were taking care of us, and I said, do you mind coming and standing in this corner? Because it's like, I'm being bombarded with this. Like, first it was up the neck, and then it was down the leg. And then I was like, and he had his Fitbit or his Apple Watch on.
Okay.
And so I was standing in this corner of the intake and the intake where they brought people in. Mm-hmm. And he stepped back for just a second, and his heart rate doubled like that.
Wow.
So I was like, and all of a sudden his watch went off. He looked down, and it was a warning that he needed to relax because his heart rate had doubled. It was incredible.
That's like just immediate fight or flight response. And thankfully you had something there to monitor that. Yeah. That's really crazy. How were the bats there?
There are so many, and they tell you, just have a good time. Just don't look up, because if they in your eye, you have to go straight to the hospital. Don't swing at them. We're talking probably a good 13 or 14 everywhere you went. You were walking through, and it was, you're in this castle, and there's bats everywhere. It was, could you ask for anything more?
I know, it almost make you feel like you're at Vlad the Impaler's castle or something.
Exactly. It was so cool.
Oh, that's cool. And so you did it just for yourself, so you weren't like working, you weren't it wasn't like something that, that you were having to consult on. So, I mean, how cool was that for you?
It was so good. It's been so long since I went and did for me. And it was such a great place to have that experience. We had, there was a group of us that went down and we just had a blast. And the experience were pretty mind blowing. It was pretty cool. I always ask, don't tell me anything, please, because you'll ruin my experience if you tell me anything.
Sure.
And so it was really cool just to go in there and to read for me. Just to read for fun. It was so much. It was so great. It was so great. You've got to get down there, man. You have got to experience that place.
Okay. Well, I know.
Medium, you've got to. You've got to.
I wonder, are they going to be doing a conference? Did anybody say anything about that?
They did not say anything about that. They did say that they were completely booked out. And that everything opened back up and everybody, booked solid, but they did promise me that if I wanted to bring a group down that they'd make it happen.
No pressure on them now. If they're listening, no pressure.
That's right.
Oh, that's great. I imagine they're just booked silly there. There's so many places I haven't been to because I'm usually stuck here. In Port Gamble. And especially with my job, but I'm kind of was stuck here. Because if something goes wrong, I have to deal with it. And so I'm always kind of stuck here. So I look forward to the days where I can go to all these other places and not know much about the activity. May know some of the history, because I just love history, but not going in as blind as I can. And I try to do that because it just, like I said, it may ruin your experience, or it manipulates where you're going and how you see things and feel things. And then there was a Gail. Was that Gail that flashed on there really fast? Hi, thanks for listening. And we also had somebody comment that heard me say where you're from. We had a Lindsay from Ohio. So
hey, Lindsay.
Everybody, thanks for listening out there. I guess watching, since we're all video now, along with the audio. So thanks for watching. So there's just so many places. I'm curious, so you've been able to go to a lot of different places, and with the show, you've been able to go to Morgan City, go to some really cool places down there in Louisiana. But what are like two places that you really want to go to, but you just haven't been there yet?
Man, that's a great question. Believe it or not, Jay's bed and breakfast place is a dream of mine.
Okay.
So wherever that's at, I want to go there.
Okay.
It's here in Oregon.
Okay.
But I definitely want to try out their bed and breakfast that they have here in Oregon that's supposed to be really haunted.
Okay.
And man, I've been to so many. I have to admit, I'd like to go into one of the bigger insane asylums. So for me, I don't know why. That's just, isn't that weird what paranormal investigators say? The things that come out of our mouths.
Yeah.
Well, my top 3, I'd really like to get into a insane asylum and check that out. But what about you? What are some of the places that you are like?
I want to go to Gettysburg.
Oh, of course, Gettysburg.
That's a big one for me. I've just been, I don't know if I want to say obsessed, but I've always been super interested in Civil War history.
That makes sense.
And I feel like maybe I was there at some point.
You were without a question. You were.
So ever since I was a young kid, I was always really interested in Civil War history. So I want to go to Gettysburg. That's one. And I'd like to go to one of the insane asylums like Waverly Hills.
Waverly, that would be my ultimate. Waverly would be my ultimate. Yeah,
in Northern State here in Washington. Shoot, I haven't even been there, and that's close to me. So, they're all around. There's stuff everywhere, but Gettysburg, I think, would be a really good one. I would just be I don't know. Is it bad to say I'd be in heaven there?
No, I think no,
Is
it
that
would
a bad?
absolutely be amazing.
I know, right? So, well, we're going to take a quick station break here and pay the station bills. And we're here with Sarah Lemos, co-host of the Ghost of Morgan City, and so much more that she does. And we're going to get into some of that that she does other than the show. But I'm going to be also asking you about some of the stuff from the Ghost of Morgan City, because it's pretty intense show. I'll just say that. It's pretty intense, and it was neat kind of seeing you go through things. Sorry, because on investigations and like private home stuff that I've done, I can kind of relate, and I know kind of what you're feeling, and the look on your face. I kind of know what that is. So it was kind of intense. So we'll talk about that, and I'm going to ask you about meeting Ozzy, of course.
Yes.
Because it's Ozzy. So, but we're here on Let's Talk Radio, WLTK-DB.com. It's the Paranormal Pete Show. I'm your host, Peter Abbe, with Sarah Lemos, special guest, and we'll be right back.
Paranormal evidence. We scour the internet searching for true paranormal captures, information, and education. New methods mixed with old methods of capturing this mysterious phenomenon. Well, look no further for your ghostly voices than ghostly-voices.com. Nicole Tito and Lisa Crick take you on a journey into their paranormal world and provide you with true EVP and ITC audio captures, compelling information on debunking, some hilarious bloopers, and more. Remember, these two are veterans in the field and know how to capture the true evidence you are looking for. Ghostly-voices.com, your paranormal stop for true audio evidence. Ghostly-voices.com. A book of mystery, a book of one man's journey, a book of the afterlife, a book you must read. Ghost and Me by 5-time award-winning author Kevin Killen is a book of one man's journey in the search of the afterlife. Read of his chilling childhood experience, his investigative journeys, and his opinions of paranormal activity. Ghost and Me by Kevin Killen, an Ozark Mountain publication. Get your copy today online or wherever books are sold.
All right, we're back on the Paranormal Pete Show. I'm your host, Peter Orbe, with special guest Sarah Lemos. Welcome back, Sarah, and thanks again for being on the show. All right, so coming back from break, well, we were just kind of talking about places we wanted to go and haven't been. So many. It'll probably never end. It's probably one of those hobbies or passions or whatever you want to call it out there that's just never gonna stop. And Rhonda says, Sarah, you rock.
That's my good friend Rhonda.
All right. Well, yeah, thanks for watching, for sure, for tuning in. Really appreciate it. So I want to get into some of the other stuff other than the show, because I've got some questions about the show I want to ask you about. But kind of go back. I think you have an interesting story in just your life and how you've come up as a medium as well. So for those who don't know, I think it's an interesting thing to share, and may help other people. And that's one of the big reasons we all do this work anyways, right? Is to help people. So take us back, because I know you had experiences as a kid, and like, what was that like, and how how did you handle that? Even back then.
It's weird because when you're born this way, there is a piece of you that thinks everybody else sees everybody else. Why wouldn't they? They all see the same thing on TV. They must see the man in the room. They must see the man at the dinner table. They must see the man that wants to keep getting in the car. So for me, it was like, I grew up, and I always date myself here, but oh well, I was a young person in the 80s, and in the 80s,
me too.
Stranger, right? Stranger danger was huge. Like
right.
Run, like literally run from a stranger. Everyone, even in our schools, we were taught you don't talk to strangers and you run. And it was like this thing they told us constantly.
I remember that.
Right? So I didn't talk to them because they were strangers. So when it first started, I was 5 or 6 years old, and I remember thinking, okay, I can't talk to them, but I can see them. And finally, after this one spirit had come to me night after night after night, I finally went to my grandmother and said, Grandma, this man comes and sit with me every single night. And of course, my grandma hearing that, it put her into a full panic. And she, called everybody to the house and wanted them to talk to me about this man coming to sit with me every night. And she became frustrated at one point and started yelling at my mom. I can understand why at this point. And she says, why would you let this man come through that door and sit with my daughter or with your granddaughter? And I said, Grandma, he doesn't come through the door. And I remember this. I said, he comes through that wall. When the shadows come at night, Mr. Shadows comes through that wall. And that's what I said. And everybody in the room you could see their disappointment that they were worried about something that wasn't real. They were worried about something that was made up. They were worried about, and I could feel that as an empath. As a small child, I looked around that room going, I'm not lying. I'm not lying. I know what you guys are thinking, and I'm not lying. And I think that's when I started what I call mudding. I started covering up who I was. I started hiding those pieces of me and covering up.
Yeah, that's a great term. Great way to put it. And wow. So even at that age, you kind of realized maybe what was going on, and you had a name for him. Did I hear that? Okay.
Yes, Mr. Shadows. And it's weird because this, I think, is the first time I've said that during an interview, is that his name was Mr. Shadows. I had a name from it. Even I didn't talk to him, but in my head, it was Mr. Shadows because he came out. Now, the more
shadows, yeah,
exactly. And the more I've studied and the more I've talked to hundreds and thousands of mediums at this point, it's optically, that's when I could see him the best, is because the light was fading. The way we see was affected.
Right.
So it makes sense now why Mr. Shadows could be seen at that time of night. But and then it grew like crazy. When I hit my teenage years, it became the most embarrassing, life-altering experience, having panic attacks. Every time they'd touch me in school, I'd have a panic attack. And so I would leave the classroom because I couldn't handle being touched or manipulated in the classrooms. It
right. I'm curious, because I didn't really pay attention or realize anything until in my 30s. So it was, it was a lot later for me, but back then as a teenager, were there any books or anything that resources for you? No.
No, there was nothing. And, I had Scooby-Doo. Let's be real. I'm not joking. I had the Munsters. I had Scooby-Doo. I had, the Addams Family. That's how I felt normal. Watching these TV shows, being like, oh, they can do it. And I'm not kidding. I was like, oh, look, I'm not so crazy because we have the Addams Family. I'm not the Munsters and Scooby-Doo.
Right.
So that was my reference of normality as a teenager and to a younger adult. And when I hit, I would say 18 or 19, I started asking questions, trying to find anything I could. by the time I hit 30, now that's interesting that you hit 30 too, because when I hit 30, I couldn't hold it in anymore. So I was able to stifle a little bit, still have massive experiences, but not talk about it. Once I hit 30, no. Once I hit 30, there was literally, it was not an option.
Yeah. Yeah. And so why do you think, hey, you hit a certain age that then all of a sudden, as show friend Karen Fraser says, the universal 2x4 hits you in the head,
Go ahead. Yeah.
which is kind of what happened to me.
Right.
But, when you realize, I mean, why do you think, is it just because your life experience, is it your perspective on life, what your priorities are? What do you think, made it to where you just couldn't hold it in anymore?
I was working at a really old building in Salem, Oregon, and I was working directly around a very active, intelligent haunting. And to have to be in his area, I think it's what sparked me, to be honest with you, because I couldn't get away from it. I had to work in that area. I had to. And so I think me going every single day, knowing that I couldn't tell anybody, that I couldn't say anything, and be scared, literally scared. And I think it was the point where it was like, okay, here, they're all coming. And that's what happened. They all started coming, and they all started talking, and they all started physically manipulating me. And that's when I started sorting out anything and everything I could on the subject.
Yeah.
And at that time, there's not much out there's, at that time, it wasn't popular. It wasn't this popular thing. There wasn't tons of television shows. There wasn't, there's a few psychic mediums that were on talk shows when I was hit so hard. And so it was like, I tried to reach out to them, which was you could not contact anybody.
Right.
The books were little to nothing out there. They were just more about what that medium did,
Sure.
So it wasn't
not how they did it. It's what they did.
They did. Not how they did. And I made some phone calls, and I started calling these different psychic mediums in the area. And their responses were scary. Their responses were, I will not help you. You will take my business. And I remember pleading with this woman on the phone and saying to her, no, ma'am, I won't. I promise. I just need to know why these dead people are walking through the wall. And it actually makes me want to cry, because I was reaching out to someone saying, am I losing it? Yeah. Am I losing my shit? Because I need to know. And her response was, no, you'll take my job. And it was like, no, I will not. I would never do that. I just need to know if I'm safe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're fearing for, what's going to happen next, especially if things are getting stronger. Well, I'm sorry you had to go through that. That's I guess one way to look at it is, you may not be the person today. If it weren't for that, you may not have as much drive as you do to empower people.
Exactly.
So I guess, that's probably the best way you can look at it, but geez, it can be like a used car sale, used car lot out there where the salesmen are all hawking around. Sorry if anybody is a used car salesman. I don't mean any ill things towards you, but just the stereotype, I guess. Yeah. But it's too bad that things are that way. And how many people have gone through that? How many people have had those intense experiences and never did they're still covering it up. And that's concerning, as well. But at least nowadays, I mean, it's a lot better now, right? You can talk about things. Yeah. It's so different from 20 years ago, to now. So at least there's more resources. There's more books. There's certainly a lot of stuff online.
Yes.
There's a lot of great articles on what it's like to be an empath, or am I an empath? I tell my clients about them all the time. Hey, just go look these up.
Yeah.
See what you think. So fortunately, there's a lot of resources now, but So as I wanted to ask, did you ever find out who the man was in your room when you were a kid?
Oh my, no one has ever asked me that.
Well, it's a spirit guide for you, I'm guessing.
That's so funny. Well, because I love that of course you would say that. Thank you. I think that you're right, because the ultimate message at the end was, we're standing with you. And I was like, huh? And once he communicated, that's all he really communicated was, watch for me. And I was like, but I do watch, I'm a kid. I'm like, huh? But yeah, I absolutely agree that one of the reasons he came to me
Yep.
Was to start that process. And thank God, Pete, it was about a year or two after I made those phone calls that I found an incredible group of women in Salem, Oregon, who picked me up, swept me off. And even though they didn't have all the answers, they helped me find answers. And
Awesome.
so I love how you said that you were like, yep, like you wouldn't be where you're at today if you didn't get bit in the butt like that. And it's the truth. Yeah. And now it's empowering others to speak and share their stories, because it is scary at 5 years old to see a man standing in your room that now you realize nobody else sees.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I would believe that he's definitely was a spirit guide.
Yeah.
Because I think we have different ones that kind of come and go as we grow on this plane. He was kind of like your starting line of,
I agree.
And then you have other ones that come in, or as you develop, you can sense them, whereas maybe they were there the whole time, but you just weren't able to sense them, and
right.
How things go through. So that's really cool. Did he have a beard by chance?
He did, and he was an older man. He was
like an Amish beard.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And it was very pokey. That's one thing I do remember was that. And I also remember after him, the spirits and I was going to ask you this, if you don't mind me asking.
Yeah.
When you started seeing spirit, did you ever hold your breath?
I don't know.
But what I remember as a kid is I would hold my breath as long as I could to make them go away. And so, like, I know you were a bit older, but like that, where you just hold your breath and hold.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it wasn't something that I've then realized I'm not breathing and I'm going to pass out.
That was me.
Oh, geez. Yeah. I don't know. I guess I didn't really notice, but I should pay attention and see if still, if something's coming through.
Yeah. And what happens when you do that, like a lot of my students, they hold their breath. And I watch for that. And one of the first things I teach them is you need to breathe through this, because it is a startle reflex. But yeah, I love that. Sorry for throwing you there, but
oh no, it's good.
Yeah. And no, he absolutely did have a beard. He was an older man. He did have a smell to him. So that's why as a child, it's like, it's weird that he walks through the wall, but he has all the characteristics of a human.
Right. Exactly. And your little brain is trying to
figure that out.
Well, it knows because it's definitely more connected and fresh and not cynical and all that stuff. But you just don't have the equipment's not all wired in for you to understand then. So, well, that's really cool. And as far as being a medium, are you real familiar with your spirit guides? Is it easy for you to like call on one over another? Is that something you do in your practice?
Yeah, so I work with Mark and Gillian. Gillian is my primary guide and Mark is my secondary guide. They actually tell me, and versus me tell them.
Okay.
And it's the truth. A lot of times Mark will be like, it's me, this is what I think. Gillian is very different. So she's very much different. She's different energy, but they're very clear on whose decision is what. And it doesn't always mix. And a lot of times, and I totally screwed up, Pete. When I met Gillian Michaels had been on. And so when I met her, I'm like, she said Gillian. And I said, oh, Jillian, like Jillian Michaels. And she's like, no, I said Gillian. And it was like, great. I meet my spirit guide for the very first time. And the first thing I do is screw up her name.
Well, that's what, hey, she's got to give you the benefit of the doubt here because it could go either way.
Thank you. I
Could
appreciate
go
that.
either way.
I
It
appreciate
I always laugh at I did a gallery reading once and was picking up on this woman's grandfather and everything he went through in life, and I got his name and I spelled his name out,
Wow.
and it was I thought it was Felicino was his last name, and I got the spelling correct. She said, "Yeah, that's correct." And I said, "I think it's Felicino." And she goes, "Oh, you're totally wrong. It's Filicino." And that was pretty awesome.
Are you kidding me? That's almost nearly impossible, and you nailed it. Way to go.
I was like, "Oh, yeah, all right. Yeah, you're right."
Silly me.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, but the fact that you mispronounce it, it happens,
Yeah.
So is it easy for you then? I mean, because it sounds like you have a really good connection with them to where they're on speed dial.
Yep.
They're just there.
Yep.
Yeah. I always have a hard time with, seeing exactly who's there, or, most of the time I feel like information is coming from the spirit I'm connecting to.
Totally.
But maybe it's coming from a guide. I'm just not quite sure. And so I've got a question for you, that it's kind of a weird, deep question, but
Yeah.
as far as is in your work, so when you connect with somebody's loved one, or you're in a haunted location and you're doing an investigation and you're trying to find out what's there, right?
Yeah.
And when you connect with something and you're getting a message, do you think, I'll see if I can make this make sense. Do you think that when they give an answer, that it's because something they know, or are they getting that information from somewhere else as well?
Oh shit. Now, excuse my language. So that actually makes sense. So you're asking, like, it's almost like when we are communicating with them, is the same occurrence happening? Maybe they think it's a guide, or they think is that what you're saying?
You're right. Are they giving the information, or is it coming from somewhere else? And in a sense, they're a medium, but on the other side.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely something. I think that's absolutely a possibility, where there's transference. Like it's the information is being transferred, but on what level is it transferring on? When I speak directly to the dead, I gather as much information as I can. So I do a lot of poking. If I'm paranormal investigating, it might be just a one-time question, like, and there that could happen. When I'm communing with someone's loved one, even though it's kind of, I bring them as much evidence as I can that I'm communicating with them,
Sure.
and those type of things. But no, is that possible? Yeah. Could it be that's what's going down? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do we know for sure? Hell no. Don't let anybody tell you different. We do not have anything in some net here.
Exactly.
No.
In my show intro, and my motto in the paranormal is, we don't know jack and anything's possible.
It's so true. And,
Yeah.
It's exciting too, because I don't have to be forced in a direction. I can have conversations with you. I can go talk with Barry Fitzgerald. I can go over and talk and I'm going to get everyone's ideas. And what I love about our community is we don't hold you on it. It can change. You can tell me that Bigfoot or aliens or this, and we sit and talk about it. It's not like, oh, that's not correct. We totally enjoy each other. I love it. I love our community.
It's about having that open mind, to be able to, is that possible? Well, sure, could be
Absolutely.
possible. I've just kind of wondered, and that's a question my wife Molly has asked me often is it coming from them, or is it coming from somewhere else through them, like that sort of thing. So Molly, if you're watching, hopefully that answers.
Yeah, great question.
I mean, I think anything's possible. So what was kind of like your first, once you kind of in your 30s, when you hit 30 and you're like, all right, the mud's coming off. We're doing this.
Yep.
What was your first impactful experience, and with a client or on an investigation? What was like the first time where like you um I don't want it to sound bad, but had a hard time shaking it, like after the reading, after the investigation, whatever it was, where something hangs around for a couple days? What was a really impactful one for you, and kind of how did it work out?
It's interesting because like there's several readings that I can think of that when I started giving readings. Is that what you mean? Like having an experience where you're doing this and
Yeah.
it's
Where
happening.
yeah, where you're coming out of your comfort zone, you're coming out of your shell, so to speak,
Yeah.
to do this. What was kind of like something that you can share publicly?
Yeah.
But what was that impactful reading, that impactful experience you had as a psychic in a haunted location? What was that?
I would say one of the first like experiences was actually at a healing circle. I had gotten very ill, and this was when I very first started working with my gift. Barely took some mud off. Thought I'll go to a healing circle. My blood pressure sadly was 80/60. They took my driver's license away. I was cleaning my house by scooting around, literally, because I could stand up and I'd pass out.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and I'd been going to doctor after doctor, and they literally were like, Sarah, we don't know what's wrong with you. They put me on a medication that they put on people that are paraplegic.
Okay.
They were hoping this was going to help. It didn't. So I thought to myself, I'm going to go to this healing circle. Let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting there, everybody's doing a healing. We're being quiet as you're supposed to. And they've got a woman in the middle. And I'm watching, and every about 30 minutes I have to check my blood pressure because you don't want to scare people. You don't want to be like, my turn, thud. Okay, that goes over really bad.
Right.
And at that moment, from the corner of my eye, somebody walked through the wall. And so I can't hide anything on my face. I started crawling up the couch, crawling up the wall. I was panicking. I didn't know what to do. My friend from across the room came over. She's like, what do you see, Sarah? And I'm like, no. And she's like, what do you see? And I'm, no. And I just kept saying it, no. And she said, Sarah, you have to. And I said, there's a man. He's about 5'8". And I started explaining him. The girl in the middle of the circle looks up at me. She says, that's my uncle. So in that moment, I'm in front of all these strangers, which was just great because I'm already feeling judged and worried, and I could pass out at any moment, and I'm seeing dead people. And she said, Sarah, say what you see. And so I did. And none of it made sense to me. They were pieces, as we now know. That's how it works. But I didn't know what was happening. Mm-hmm. And I finished the reading. Now I know that's what I did. Mm-hmm. And she was like, oh my gosh, you da-da-da-da-da-da-da. We take a break. I go upstairs and I took my blood pressure. Now you have to understand, months of 80/60.
Yeah.
My blood pressure
was
109.
And it just, wow. So what do you think? What do you think?
I know.
What do you think happened?
The reason I was literally pushing my gift away with everything that I was killing myself. And I was using all my energy that my body needed to protect myself, I thought, from this thing that I had no idea what it was. Mm-hmm. And from that point, I'm not lying to you, Pete, from that point forward, my blood pressure stayed regulated as long as I continued to do the readings. And the rest is history. So
wow,
that to me was something I couldn't shake. I couldn't make that up. My doctors still do not know why my blood pressure went back up.
Despite you telling them.
And my doctor's very used to my weirdness. So, yeah.
Wow.
So that I would say really shook me.
Well, yeah. Geez. So you had kind of almost it was a relief on your subconscious, the parts of your brain that you're not aware of. It was a relief on that. Wow, that's so I guess you can't ever stop doing readings.
Unless I want to take a nap. But yeah, and ever since and it's amazing. And I'm so grateful. And it's, and what I know now is to share that with everybody. Don't hide who you are. Do not hide what you can do. You are magic. You are special. There is nothing wrong with you. And, if you are struggling right now, you don't have to. You can wipe this mud off and you can stand in who you are. And there's something very, truly beautiful in that.
Yeah. And it's so cool that you're about empowering people for that too, because there are the resources now. There's people you can talk to, and I know you do classes.
Oh yeah.
And tell us a little bit about the classes you do, and that I think that really correlates to what you're just talking about there. So tell us a little bit about the classes you do, and if you have any upcoming classes.
So I teach a class. I've been teaching a class for the last 6 or 7 years called Pathways to Spirit. And it's a class that was developed over 4 years through my process of realizing who I was and how to work with my gift. Mm-hmm. So I really wanted to help people not only be okay with who they are, understand who they are, and then put these things into practice. So the course started out as a year-long course, and then what I've done is I've condensed it. So now it's a 6-month course. It starts in October, and it's incredible. We meet every single week as a group. We go over the education. You're not let alone, but yet it's self-led, because there is a piece of this that still makes you go, that's my special. And I help people just come out of their shell as they want. Mm-hmm. And create their own modality and their own way to spirit. And whatever that is if that might be just through chakra work or pendulum work or learning how to read cards or how to be okay with being an empath or dealing with being a knower. So whatever that is, I've created an education program that touches on the 4 clairs and allows you to develop and create your own path. And I am not a guru. What I am is someone who will listen and someone who will give advice through many, many years of challenges myself, and also watching so many of my dearest friends go through these challenges and what helped them versus what didn't. So my classes are really, I cut the fat. We go straight into the meat. We're not messing around. We're definitely going deep. And I want to create that space where you can be the person you were born to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And so people they have that individual aspect to it, but it's still good to have that group aspect. And so someone else hears somebody else's challenge, that may trigger something in them to help that person or themselves. And that's really cool. And that's a great part of, ghost conferences, paranormal conferences that are around, is just hearing other people's stories and experiences, because we all have a lot of similar experiences. Those of us who recognize paranormal experiences that we've had, there's a lot of similarities, across the board, but they're all a little different. They're all individualized, but having that group aspect, I think is really cool too, where people can share. And so where do people sign up for your classes? On your website?
Yep. All my information is at mediumsaralemos.com. And then there's also a group that I support through Facebook that is Medium Sarah Lemos, Our Tribe That Thrives. It's a place where I do card pulls, or I might talk about a subject in the morning over coffee with everybody, but just creating an atmosphere where it's okay to share. So maybe somebody had a paranormal experience the night before, they share about it. Maybe somebody had a metaphysical experience, they share about it. We talk about the moon and what phase it's in and all that good stuff.
Oh boy. So in your mediumship, do you also use other mediums? I don't know how you like that. Mm-hmm. Like, do you do any tarot or a pendulum, any other things that you kind of work into your work that's maybe just to provide another point of view?
So I am a stickler. I use my body. And a
Okay.
lot of times, equipment likes me. I work really well with equipment and things like that. But I do teach the modality of cards, and I do teach the modality of pendulums. But when I'm on a paranormal investigation, I need a piece of paper and a pen. That's the only thing. I use my body and I use my pen and paper.
Yeah.
And that's how I work. I do suggest other people who have never had a paranormal experience, please use these things because it makes it easier to have your first experience.
Right.
For my students, I always tell them, okay, put it away. Now here's your body. Let's get into this. And I love teaching mediums. I love educating mediums and working with them. But the mediums that I use are pen and paper.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have a special notebook that I take with me just for that.
Yep.
Super important to take notes. In fact, I did a whole episode on DIY investigation in your own house. This was during when everything was shut down. Okay, here, if you've been home a lot and you think something's going on. So I did a whole show on that. And the important thing I was trying to hammer home was to take notes and write stuff down. And sometimes it gets hard to do that if you're picking up a lot of stuff and it's just coming in, like 20 movies playing on top of each other. It's kind of hard to write it all down. So, if I'm doing an investigation, I keep it simple. I like to have, a good EMF meter. And and it's also helps me like know that, okay, I am feeling this conduit over here. I can feel it. I can feel it from across the room. That is that. Or if I feel spirit is around, it's something else to corroborate that. And then I like to carry an audio device or set it down somewhere. But because sometimes at some point, I almost always stuff starts going so fast for me. I can't write it down, and my writing is horrible as it is. And so I can't even read my writing if I'm writing in the dark. So taking an audio log is kind of what I do. But I think it's great. Over the years, I've kind of, gone the same way. Your approach is just, using myself, my body and feelings right in a notepad. Just keep it simple.
Yeah.
But. Can you write in the dark? I have a hard time.
No. But the thing is usually when I do go in, like I'm sketching because I like to draw. Like a lot of my stuff comes in before I hit the location. I'll get a lot of information, so I'll draw. But no, and again, I kind of lean on my crew. Like they have all the equipment, so like it's like they worry about that. I just have to worry about bringing what I have up here, and then if I can, again, it's get as much evidence as I can in writing.
Yeah, no, exactly. And if you're investigating as a medium, if you're using, if you're using all this different gear, your focus isn't on, your intention. It becomes a little different. So you kind of deviate from whatever your intention that you set going into a place, and then it's just hard to focus. It's like, it's kind of the reverse of, in school, they'd say, well, if you're taking notes the whole time, writing down everything the teacher says, you're not really hearing it. You're not really, I should say you're hearing it, but you're not listening.
Exactly.
And so when you have all this other gear and stuff to kind of monitor, you're not going to have as good of or as a clear as experience, right?
I completely agree with you. I love how you said you can hear it, but you're not listening. And I think that's a great way to explain a paranormal investigation that's a hit or miss. If you weren't listening, you can't hear it. And if you're not completely there, if you're too distracted from whatever reason, it could be a sound outside, whatever that is. If you don't pull it back, you can miss out on a lot.
Yeah. It's you just have to stay focused.
Yep.
And that's hard, man. I'll tell you what.
Especially when you get excited.
Yeah, it's hard to stay focused there.
Yeah.
So you got some upcoming classes in October. Is the Ghost Hunters cruise, is that ever happening again? I don't know with COVID, like what happened to that?
Yeah, so she's starting to look at things. She's starting to look at different areas and places, and she's still working with the cruise companies and things like that as they figure things out. We are looking at doing a lot more land tours. So we don't just do cruising. We do a lot of land tours. We've been to Scotland, Ireland 4 times. We've been to New York, Canada. We've been to many, 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 many places. So I think she's going to be moving a lot more in that type of direction until everything kind of really calms down.
And who knows when that's going to be.
Yeah.
But so, you did mention equipment in there a little bit. Yeah. And, what's your thoughts on, and this is something that can be controversial amongst the paranormal field, but what is your thoughts on ITC and in the use of, ghost box and the radio stuff? What's your take on that? Because what I've found is people either love it or they hate it.
Well, as a medium, I hate it because it drives me nuts when that thing's like, hey, I can't do it, and focus. But I do think that it's a great place to start. It's, again, if we take ourselves too serious, we could really go down a rabbit hole. But the reality is this is a way for a slight manipulation to occur to create evidence or a thought of evidence. So, I feel that if a pin can be manipulated, I feel that electrical pulses can absolutely be manipulated.
Right.
It is difficult when a pulse is simultaneously being made or occurs.
Right.
So, but can something manipulate that? Yeah. And so can we say it's a ghost or not? Again, don't go down that road with me, because if you start doing that, I'm going to start nailing you all over the place, right? But the reality is it is a way for a lot of people to start out having something that they go, oh, wait, does that feel right? Could this be happening? Let me Google this. Let me look at this. So for me, I think all different types of equipment can be questioned on every level, but I'm questioned on every level also. So as we shimmy it out, for me, I think that if you love something, you should use it. And if you have to fight to use it, you're not hanging out with the right people. Find your people. Find your people.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a great point of view. And I've kind of gone, back and forth in my own head about, that kind of stuff that's kind of it's frowned upon and praised and frowned upon and praised. You kind of go back and forth, but I've just kind of come up with, well, why not? Why not try it? You never know. I mean, something amazing might happen.
Yeah, and I've experienced myself hearing someone's name who come crystal clear through it, where it's like, that was crazy. Now I don't know what to do, so it's like,
what was I asking?
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that we should try all things. And I don't think there's one thing that we should decide to stop doing just because for this month or this week, it's not the popular thing to do.
Yeah. Or, exactly. I just kind of think, why not,
I agree.
Why not go for it and see what happens? I've had, a lot of times if I'm doing an ITC session, I set rules, to try and alleviate some of the suggestiveness of it.
Great idea.
Where I say, if you'd like to answer me, you need to give your answer, but then follow it with my name so that I know you're talking to me and not somebody else. And I don't know if it's, getting into parapsychology a little bit. I don't know if when something happens, is it me putting that through the radio? Maybe. But I've had numerous times here in the Walker Ames house where that's just I think they know that's my rules now when I do that, to where I've had, I probably can't even count how many responses where it comes through, yes, Pete, or no, Pete. So that directly answering me, I know it's pretty cool.
I mean, it's beyond cool is what it is. I mean, it's beyond cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And other teams have also reported when they investigate out here, because I don't attend every investigation, especially through the last year, but they would report back that, oh, yeah, somebody was saying, "Where's Pete?" through the ghost box. And
Oh, that's so cool.
so, but yeah, no, I think, it's one of those, ITC is one of those fields of part of the research field in the paranormal that I think, hey, why not? Why not? Because what if we do stumble across the right formula, the right frequency range, or it becomes known that this is what you do to do this and this, why not, right? Let's just go for it.
Absolutely.
So just a quick time check, 4 past the second hour here on the show. And if you're still listening on the East Coast and watching, you're awesome, because it's after midnight over there. So thanks for tuning in. Everybody's still out there. You can comment, say, hey, I'm still here. Let us know if there's any questions too, for Sarah. Put them up on the, comment there, and we'll try and answer them there. So what do you think? And this is probably a question you've had. Okay, Lindsay in Ohio says, we're here.
Hi.
You probably get this question now. Jody's still here. Hey, Jody, say hi to Pops. So what's the hardest thing about being a medium? Now that you've had years of experience and learning about it, and you're teaching other people, you're empowering other people, passing your gift on and sharing it. What's the biggest challenge for you still? What's the hardest part of it? That's a deep question.
It is, because, there's so many layers to that, as a medium.
Sure.
You have to I remember when GHI started, and I remember wanting to be on their show. I remember, why didn't they have a medium? I remember thinking, why? Yeah. And then moving forward and finally getting on a team, and finally making it, finally letting my friends let me be on a team, but I was only allowed, I did these certain things, but I was like, I'm on a team, and then it's like, I'm going to say it, I'm going to tell you. And then being on TV on multiple platforms, and then all of a sudden you're not a real medium if you're on TV. You're not a real psychic medium if you're on that platform. And I'm like, whoa, wait a second. I fought this entire time. I have fought and stood up for, and then it's like, well, here you are, and well, you can't be real. Wait, hold on. What? And so I think, you're going to find that anywhere you go.
Sure.
But
probably more pronounced when you're on like a TV show, probably.
Yeah. And so then it's like, well, you get the message, and maybe, before I didn't get messages like, oh, that's interesting.
Okay, so Jody's asked a question. Do you ever channel aliens or just connect with the deceased? And we'll go back to what we were talking about.
So, so I think then, you get to that level where you're doing it on TV, and people are like, well, then do you really do that? Can you really do that? How did you really do that? And it's like, I've been working so hard to stand in front of people and be like, check this out. I'm busting my butt. I'm learning new skills. Here I am. And, you read those messages, and you're not supposed, Ben Hansen told me, don't read the messages. And I was like, scrolling.
Sure.
So I think, if anything, I've done it to myself, because, I would say overall people have been very welcoming to me, very loving to me, and have found their way to me so that I can support them through these TV shows. But honestly, I would say that was an eye-opening experience, to be on a forum that's that large and have people pick at you. Boy, don't they know that she's going to be on TV? Shouldn't they find a prettier medium? Like the things people say behind their computer screen. Yeah, and so I think those have been some of my struggles, and I'm being very honest with you, Pete. Like those have been some of my personal struggles. Yeah. And I think it's when you're out there, and it's great I want to be out there so people can find me to get readings or to get educated. And so they feel good about that. But I think it's hard, it's hard to watch people poke at me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And Lindsay was just commenting, it's nice to hear other people that thinks like she does. And there's a lot of people out there that have your perspective on this. And it's how are you supposed to spread the good word? Let's just say.
Yeah.
If you're not out on a big platform.
It's for me, it was the reason I did what I did. I was like, no, I'm good. And Ben was like, no, you can help people. And as soon as he said that, I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
If you're saying I can help people, and he wasn't kidding, the amount of people that I've been able to meet and love and help through this opportunity has been amazing. But I have to admit, there's been some tomato throwing amongst that. Yeah.
Yeah. And somehow, I don't know anything about that, yet. I mean, I'm a musician, so maybe sure people at gigs, they turn your back to you. If you're not playing cover tunes, it's like, what is this original music? Ugh.
My eyes are burning.
So I'm not experiencing what you've experienced, but I'm guessing it's something that, did you kind of have to really kind of go look within before you could really learn how to kind of conquer that? Was it really a lot of introspection, meditation, hyper focus, or whatever your process is?
I think fighting as a small child to prove to my family, hey, I'm not lying, I see dead people. Then to a teenager to hide it. Then into 30 to come out of the closet and say, here I am. And to have people, oh, I'll pray for you. I really hope you find help. These things to get to that platform where I'm working on ghost hunter cruises and I'm doing these conferences and I'm working so hard. And then to nail it and be like, okay, I'm going to do this on a bigger platform. And then to still have tomatoes, I realized that, like you said in the beginning, if it weren't for those tomatoes, I don't think I would work so hard for sauce. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't. And so it's like, I appreciate some of these comments that were like, pop, pop, pop. It hurt. But it also made me go, oh, watch me go. Watch me go. I'm still headed. I'm still going to go. And I'm still going to be Sarah Lemos. And I'm always going to own my stuff. But yes, after that first one, after Ghost of Morgan City, and reading people's comments, it was like, man, I'm 5 years old again. Shoot, I'm 13 again. Shoot, I'm 30 again. And people are just being mean. And it's like, no, you're not, Sarah. No, you're not. You're Sarah Lemos, and you work with an incredible team, and you're doing good work. And that's the reality.
Yeah.
So,
and you know what you know your experience.
Yeah.
And
it's my truth. Yep.
You just, exactly. And so I just, curious with what your answer was going to be for what's your challenge, and kind of how you've learned to deal with that. Take the rotten tomatoes and make ketchup. Of course, maybe that would make rotten ketchup. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we'll see. But I'm not going to waste it. That's what I'm going to say.
There you go. That's what it's all about. So, well, let's talk about the show a little bit. Linda says so amazing, and I agree. First of all, I've always liked Ben. He seems like a good dude. And so I gotta try and get him on the show too, because I think
definitely
he'd have a lot of fun stuff to talk about, and interesting approach too.
Yes.
But let's talk about the show. So, what a cool area that the show takes place. It's, I don't know. I love history, and there just seems to be that part of the country. It's just cool history. It's, there's bad parts of that history. There's bad parts of everywhere's history.
Yeah.
But it's rich with history, I guess, is what I'm getting at. What was it like, on top of all the activity that, your team was responding to and going to check out, what was it like just being in Louisiana and in an old part, and kind of what was it like, and how did it feel there? What was the overall energy like in that area?
So, New Orleans has been through so much.
Right.
Louisiana has been through so much, and it is buildings built upon buildings that have been have been destroyed or diminished, but you also have rich history in these homes and plantations that have been there and not knocked down, not damaged. And so it was amazing. I always say where there's history, there's mystery. And Louisiana will not let you down. The rich history, and I believe that there's so much energy there connected to that history. And seeing the moss hanging from the trees, walking in near swamps with alligators just floating around. I mean, it was amazing. The food, the people, the accents, it was incredible. Just incredible.
Oh yeah. Someday when I get down there, and I do have family in Louisiana, so I've got to get down there for a visit. But what was the overall energy like? Because I noticed on the show, I mean, you do a lot of stuff like you said, before you get to a location. Yeah. But was there just kind of a certain feel? And I asked because here in my town, in my home base in Port Gamble, there just seems to be, it's really small. It's not a huge metropolis or anything. I think it's 150 acres or something like that. Wow. The town site, real small.
Wow.
But it has this energy that's just kind of all over it. So I'm just kind of curious if there's just kind of on all these historical places you've gone, basically, maybe let's expand it out of Louisiana. Is there a certain feeling that I'm just in a historic area because I feel this sort of energy? Is there anything like that?
Yeah. When you open a good book and you have the smell of the book, like you're at a library and the library is a library, but once you pick that book up and you open the book and the smell of the book hits you, then you're in a library. It's definitely Louisiana. The essence, the energy there is very historical. And as a medium and as a psychic, I want to touch that. You can't step around the energy. So you're in it.
That's what I'm kind of getting at. Yeah. Okay. So you're in it. And so you kind of have to almost alter your base path running here a little bit to kind of, you have to compensate for that, knowing that that's there. Okay. So that's kind of what I was getting at. Is there, it's just something that's there. Cause I've noticed, that would corroborate that, that, a lot of times here in Port Gamble, maybe because I'm so used to living and subconsciously compensating for the energy that's just here in this whole space, that when I go somewhere else to investigate, it's like super vivid and like really intense. And, I tend to be a lot more accurate. And so it's just kind of weird. So do you had to kind of experience a little bit of that too, where you're kind of fighting through just the general energy of the whole region, to fight through? Okay. That's really cool. Okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of like if I was trying to listen to the news, watching, like if the news was on TV right now and I'm trying to hear it and you're playing your guitar, I would have to really focus in because there's so much static noise to get around it. But when you walked into a location or you were on a location, it would be like everything went quiet, everything's on, everything's, it's ready for you. But yes, that's exactly it.
Okay. Well, good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Lindsay's asking, do you think that everybody has abilities to connect with spirits? And that's a pretty common question that I think a lot of psychics get all the time. What do you think?
So I'm going to be the one that is not people's favorite. No, I do not believe everyone can connect to the dead. I do not believe that everyone can connect to the dead. Do I believe everyone can have experiences with that energy? Yes. But do I believe everybody can commune with the dead? No. And do I think everyone should? No. That's why when Pete said what he did, do we know who we're talking to? Do we even know if they're telling us what they are really thinking, or are they communing for someone else? Those are things as a trained medium you'll learn. And it's not that I don't believe that people who have the gift should learn it. And I believe everyone is psychic. So yes, that's completely different. I do believe everyone is psychic, but not
everybody's a medium.
No.
Right. And
Sorry.
that's a good way to put it, because there is a difference between psychic and medium.
Yep.
And how I think about it, and what I've learned is psychic is you can have experiences and you may see something or feel something or hear something, but you're not talking to it. You're not, however it communicates, you're not communicating or receiving a message or able to deliver a message. And that's what a medium does. So I think your answer is really, really good on that, because
Thank you.
there is a difference. I believe everyone's born empathic, because that is a human thing.
Yeah.
It's just, some people may start out with a little more or a little less, but we all have it. And then it depends on if you bury it. If it gets buried in how how you're brought up. If you mud it,
That's right.
But there's so many people, and I guess I'll get your take on it. I mean, it just seems like in my experience so far on my journey, and I'm a rookie. I consider myself, a rookie in the game. I've been doing it 7 years. For people other than my friends, and it all happened so fast for me. It's Seth Michael. Seth Michael from White Light Paranormal Insight. He changed my life, and it all happened so fast. But I don't know where I was going with that, but it all happened so fast. But everyone's got empathy, but it's just, I guess the point is, how do we use it, and how are we able to use it? And I guess my point was that everyone that I talk to who's a medium, who's a trained medium and they're experienced medium, I've been doing it for 15, 20, 25, 30, 40 years. I've been doing it for like 7. So, or at least consciously been doing it for 7 years. And, so, but we all are born with certain things.
I agree.
But it's just how you recognize. I guess the first thing is recognizing it, having a resource to help you learn about it, and then whether or not you go forward with it or not.
Up to you. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So, Lindsay, that may have been really long-winded on my part. Sorry. But hopefully that answers the question. Do you feel different levels of history, older places, more intense? That comes from Linda Myers on Facebook. The older the thing. So you've been to places in Europe, it sounds like, on the cruise. Older the place, the more intense. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean it. So like Ireland itself, Pete, forewarning, you go there, you're going to be knocked to your knees. It's nothing like here. It is knock your butt to the knee. You're going to see things, feel things, hear things. I mean, it is alive over there. But it's also, they don't knock things down. They don't create new buildings. They restore, they renew, they refinish. I remember walking in Canada with Barry Fitzgerald from Ghost Hunters International.
Yeah.
And there was a wrecking ball taking down a building. And he's like, what's going on? And I'm like, yeah, Baz, that's what they do over here. They just knock it down and build something new. So yes, I do feel, and I read properties. So that's one thing I do is I touch a property with my hand and I go back and I kind of loop through the history, and I can note what happened in the house, the home, the whatever.
Yeah.
And I love doing that. So I would say yes. The older for me, the more, when you make French toast and you can soak the bread in the egg for a really long time to get it real yummy and gushy.
Yeah.
That's what it's like over there. Here, we're just throwing it in the egg, slapping it on the pan. So for me, it's like there's still experiences, but the longer it's been there, the more it has to offer.
Totally. There's more layers of history. There's more layers of people's energies that have put into that place, whether it was good energy or bad energy they put in there.
Exactly.
So yeah, it makes total sense. So Jody's asking, do you feel depleted after a connection? How can you protect yourself from being drained? But first, let's go back to Jody's other question about, do you ever communicate or channel from aliens? or is it just deceased humans?
I love that. So that's a great question. So the first time I ever worked with aliens was with Clyde Lewis, and Clyde had me go out on an investigation, and a thing that had happened in Washington into Oregon. A lot of people know about this, but there was slag that came off a UFO and actually burned through a dog, burnt through the deck of the boat, and air marshals came and took this slag. Blah 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 blah. I used my gifts to channel the information and share about this. I didn't see aliens. I didn't experience aliens. I channeled the experience that was around the alien experience.
Sure.
Okay. I have had experiences with a foreign alien craft that got very close to me and two other people, but I did not speak to them. I did not channel them. I did not talk. So to this point, I have not spoken to extraterrestrial. I have had experiences with Bigfoot, however, accidentally tricked into almost communicating with Bigfoot. And so I have had an experience somewhat communicating with Bigfoot, but aliens, nope, not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
That's a great way to end that one.
Yeah.
So back to Jody's recent question here, and thanks for the questions, you guys listening out there. Do you feel depleted after a connection? How can you protect yourself from being drained? I think I know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
Yes. So, my life as a psychic medium is draining. We're just a little bit different. Sensitives have to be careful. Where I sit in a restaurant compared to somebody else, I sit with my back to a plain wall. I can't have my back against someone who's eating, because if I do, I can touch their energy. And before you know it, I'm talking about what they're talking about. It doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I live a more drained, how would I explain this? So the answer would be, when I give readings, after you hit about 14, I get exhausted. So if I have a day where I'm pop, 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 pop,
oh man,
exhausted.
Wow. Yeah.
Group readings are a little bit more exhausting because everybody's pulling on you. So you're in a group reading and you're like being pulled on by everybody, a little bit more exhausted. Yeah. Protecting myself. I don't see a reason to. I have to admit, yes, I cover myself in the white light of spirit. I ground down. I make sure that I'm communing directly with the dead. There's a lot of rules I have. But as for protecting myself, I don't understand why I would. I am Sarah Lemos. I came here to work for the dead. I commune. I work for the dead. Those people that come to me that want to talk to their loved ones, yes, they're a beautiful part of it. But the real reason I'm doing it is to bring the voice of their loved ones from the other side. So honestly, I'm just honored. And so if I am a little depleted, I drink more water. I exercise when I can. I try to fill myself up with Reiki. But ultimately, nah, I don't protect myself.
Well, and I kind of feel the same way as far as, I kind of want the full experience. I don't want to, if it is something where I'm trying to deliver a message or see if there even is a message, I don't necessarily want to block any of that because, I'm trying to get rid of the voice in my head that's filtering what's coming through in the first place.
Absolutely.
instead of just giving the straight message, quit interpreting,
Yes.
So I kind of feel the same way now. Maybe you and many others as well. Like, I feel like I need to work more on replenishing, refreshing, grounding, and doing that sort of thing. And in fact, last week on the show, I had Clay Faulkner on, and he did a tarot reading for me, and that was a big one in there, was that I need to spend time doing that. So Jody, the other part, Sarah mentioned drinking lots of water. That's a great thing. And especially if you're like an investigation too, take lots of water. If you're investigating psychically, you know how draining that is when you're, especially if there's something going on and it's intense there. if you're not paying attention, yeah, you can get dehydrated real fast. And then,
well, you have to think about all of our equipment has batteries, right? And you guys get to pop new batteries in your equipment. We are sensitives. We don't get to pop new batteries in us. When our body is drained from a spirit, we can't just pop some, AAAs in and we're ready to roll. So, I always look at it when I'm on investigation, it's like when I used to be a lifeguard. You snack, you drink water, you get up, you move, you shake things off, you take a minute to step outside so you have a fresh perspective, you come back in. There's things you do to create that energy again, because we can't throw a AA in.
Right. Exactly. That's a good way to think about it. So, and Jody hopefully answered the question there. So, I want to get back to the show because I want to ask you about your experience in the blue shirt of Idlewild Plantation, and the footage of what appears to be a full-bodied apparition walking past a doorway. You're welcome, Jody. Always happy to take questions. So thanks for asking them. So talk to us a little bit about the case. So if people haven't seen the show, it's The Ghost of Morgan City. It's on Travel Channel. Go look it up. Tell us a little bit about the case or what you can about it. And then let's talk about the whole experience of Ben witnessing that happen at your home base,
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about the case at the Idlewild Plantation and why you guys were there in the first place.
So we got called out to Idlewild Plantation because someone the son had been watching the house for his mom, adult son. Great. Captain Caviar is amazing. But he was there and he saw an apparition. And he followed the apparition because he saw this floaty blue thing and he was like, what is that? And then he thought, what am I doing? And then it disappeared. And so he reached out because there was things going missing. There was things so there wasn't just one thing. There was many things happening in the home that they thought, you know what? I don't know what's going on here, but we need to figure out what it is. We got called to the location. Prior to getting to the location, I drew the entire house. And so I was really just excited to see that this is, and I had said, I think the apparition walks through here. Is that correct? And they said, yeah. And I said, through here, over here, and up. And they were like, yes. And I'm like, okay. So then once we get started, they work, you have to pull crew, you have to eat, you have to take breaks. It's the law. They shut you down. You have to excuse yourself. When they do that, they close down whatever we're working gets closed down. There's no entry. There's no exit. Okay. You don't go into the home. That
way there's no work taking place, right?
Exactly. And because you can get in trouble. Okay. Right. So that's the work part of this. Okay. And so we were clear across the plantation eating. I mean, when I mean clear across, I'm a good, half a block away. Okay.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, all you can hear on everybody's walkie-talkies is get to Ben now. I remember being so scared that something happened to Ben. I remember being so scared that he had a heart attack, that he got bit by I don't know. But I just start running, and this is the middle of the night. Yeah. There is no lights. You're on a plantation. Hello, alligators. Okay. Yeah. And so I'm running as fast as I can to the RV. And when we get in, Ben's face. So here I am, terrified something's wrong with Ben.
Right.
And he's like, and I'm like, oh my God. And he's like, and I'm like, ah. And he's like, no, you have to see this. And he barely gets it out. Everybody is looking through the RV windows that can't. I mean, we are all there. Yeah. Every crew person, everyone. And so he shows us this evidence. And your brain does this like, well, that's what I see in my head, but that's on, and you just can't. And we watched it again. And then it was go now. It was immediately Sarah, get in there now. We need you in there now, because they needed to make sure how tall I was versus how tall can you see through my clothing? Do I have, like, because you have to make sure the cameras aren't doing weird things.
Right.
And
Especially in the dark. Yeah.
In a I don't even know how expensive this home is, in pitch black, trying not to knock things off shelves because you cannot see in front of your face. I had no idea where I was walking.
Well, when they said, we were joking earlier that, you know, they sent you back in and then you're like, just to clarify, it's pitch black in here.
Because it was like, they're like, walk. And I'm like, where? Like, just walk where she was. Okay, but you have to be able to see.
Yeah.
And then even at one point they said that I didn't know that who was behind me. I could not see who was behind me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it was incredible.
And so, you know, I mean, it was such an incredible piece of footage. Just from, you know, the way it looked, how it moved, that you couldn't hear the footsteps where they could hear your footsteps. What was kind of, I mean, what has other people in the field, what have you heard from other people in the field about the video? Just like, holy crap, or, you know, what have you kind of heard?
Well, first of all, Ben Hansen was like, we have to figure this out. So it wasn't just, here's evidence. Ben is like, no, it is our due diligence. And I was like, okay. So he went back, he refilmed everything. You can see it on YouTube. You can see where he stood. He made me do all these things, stand up straight, put books on my head, you name it. I actually went back and met everybody that lived in the house, because I'm like, I have to do my own due diligence. You know, there's a part of you who you go, that is insane. But when I look at it, and I still tell Ben about this, I look at that and I cannot argue that we saw what we caught. Yeah. That when he took me back to do these different angle shots and things, I could not recreate it. Yeah. I could not recreate it. He would ask me to step forward. And I'm like, Ben, there's a table here. I cannot step she could have walked through the table, but Sarah can't walk through the table.
Right.
So it was just amazing. And of course, you know, again, you have people that are like, they're, you know, saying all kinds of stuff. Again, you know, they should have found a prettier medium. So, I mean, they're going to throw out stuff. To me, it was my minute. It was my time. It was my team experiencing one of the most amazing things. And no one can take that. Like, for me, going in after seeing a full body apparition, somehow finding the strength to go in there and be like, no, I'm good with full body apparitions. Like, let's do this. And just having that experience was amazing. Just amazing.
Yeah. It is amazing. And, you know, at some point, you know, a TV show about the paranormal is going to catch something really happening. You know, at some,
what we're doing? Like, I was like, wait,
that's what you're doing. Yeah.
I thought that's what we were supposed to be doing. So yeah.
Yeah. That's incredible. And don't let anybody ever take that, because you know what you experience. And I'll bet you everybody, when they saw that, who was there on site, I mean, I bet their rear ends fell out.
It's the truth. And the shaking and the crying, like, at first it was like your whole body went to, like, I'm like shaking, crying, screaming, cussing, which I try not to do, but it was like every word came out my mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. And if anything, it's unexplained phenomena.
Yep.
Which is not normal.
Yep.
So it's paranormal, right?
Right.
It's next to normal.
That's right. Kind of like where I like to hang out.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's great. So one question I had for you, was, so during this episode, you were it sounded like you were kind of expecting to pick up on wartime soldiers' energy, the death energy of someone dying painfully, you know, all that kind of stuff. But you kept picking up on, you know, a female, or, you know, female type energy and stuff. So how you could say she was in a battle zone.
Without a doubt.
You know, with the yellow fever and everything, that she was trying to help with. And, you know, is there like, what's the difference in feeling, if you can put words to it, to like when you guys did the Civil War one where, with the, you know, Confederates and the
Yeah.
Northern Army and the battle? What is that? Because I'm curious, because, you know, I think of Gettysburg, right? You know, what's that going to feel like? You
Ugh.
know, so what's kind of the difference? Because they were both in war zones, just kind of different kinds of war
Yeah.
zones. But what's kind of the difference between what you experienced with the lady in the blue and the Civil War battlefield?
You know, they tell me their stories. So honestly, I kind of get to cheat because they'll tell me, you know, she was telling me her story while I was there. She was like, okay, so this is what I feel. And I'm like, okay, and this is what other people felt. And then I'm like, ugh, you know, like I want to throw up. And like I'm like, and she's like, and now, and so she's kind of showing me things. And the guys were showing me more of the suffering, the what they left behind, who they left behind. So a lot of
Okay.
times I'm really blessed because they will show me like a movie in my head. They will tell me certain specific words, or I will feel. And once I start feeling in and I'm right, they'll go, stay on it, stay on it. So it's, if I feel, I'm like, whoa, I feel sick. I feel like I have to take care. I feel exhausted. I feel left behind. These are things that I'll say in order to have them keep me going on that same, in that same direction. Spirit leads me.
Okay. Yeah. So there is a bit of a difference, and it just kind of depends on the situation.
Exactly.
And did you notice, you know, in battlefield type, you know, areas, and maybe other places that you've been have similar history, does it feel just really chaotic, you know, other than hearing their stories and feeling, what's kind of the overall energy? Is it really chaotic?
Clanking
Like
cans.
what? Like what?
Clanking cans.
Oh, okay.
You know, like it's energy popping off each other, but it's not small energy, it's larger energy. It's worry, it's concern, it's fear, it's
Hmm.
hypervigilance, it's letting go, sadly. So for me, a battlefield or something like that is way different than taking a walk in the woods, like where that's quiet and it's peaceful and there's, you know,
Sure.
these, you know, if you're walking along and you nail one of these battlefields, the first thing you're going to do, Pete, is go, that is exactly what you're going to do, because the energy is like pop, 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 just cans clanking, clanking, clanking. And you're
Yeah.
looking everywhere because you're like, why is the energy so so loud and staticky? It really is kind of just stepping back into that place, at least how I read.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I mean, I look forward to that someday.
Yeah.
I want to be get the whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah. I bet you will.
I look forward to that. So on the show, you know, what was kind of like your funniest? What was the funniest thing that happened? Because usually, you know, we all kind of in the field of paranormal research, we all kind of joke around that the living are more scary than the dead, you know, or you get, you know, your teammates pull pranks and stuff. What was the funniest moment of filming for you, so far?
You know, when I was with the guys, they are amazing. The crew, Katie, Ben, Jeremy, like incredibly brotherly energy, like a lot of brother energy. I
Sure.
remember working, and I had to do a few more things before we got to leave that night. And I came out, and Jeremy and Ben, they were finished. All their stuff was packed up. I had to do a little bit more work, and they
Mhm.
were asleep. And it was the funniest thing to come out and they're all like lent up on things, because it's what you do. You get sleep when you can. But it was that
Yeah.
moment of looking at my brothers going, so your sister's in here working her butt off. And, you know, but
You guys are lazing around.
yeah. And, you know, but honestly, we spent a lot of time doing things. Ben and Jeremy did ride alongs. They flew airplane. They did tons of stuff, and they always would text, "We're above you, like we're flying over now," or these type of things. But honestly, it was just an amazing experience with good people. And even though there was dangerous situations that I was in, and crazy things happened, they always kind of made it lighthearted, and just were amazing humans, and they are amazing humans.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. And if you're doing what you like to do and doing it with good people, that's what it's all about. What was, you mentioned a dangerous situation. Um, not to change the mood or anything, but what was like the scariest moment for you, that maybe didn't show up necessarily in the show or didn't come through as intense as it was for you on the show?
I would say in the one with the battlefield,
Okay.
when he hit me in the back of the knee, what people don't know is that my heart rate started doing weird things. I started feeling like I was going to pass out. I had never had a physical event from a spirit knock me like that. And it was this moment where I was like, I'm going to pass out. I'm going to pass out.
Mhm.
And so that was scary for me. Also on that same experience, I was up on some stairs. Ben was across and they had these really neat, beautiful stairs that came down.
Mhm.
The cameraman came off in front of me. I turned to warn Ben, stairs. As I do that, I fall forward. My head starts going towards a marble table.
Ugh.
I'm flying through the air, and the camera guy goes like that because he knew I was going to hit my head on if he wouldn't have flexed his hand, because you're in pitch black. You work in pitch dark, and
Yeah.
so he saved me. I did rip open my leg. I did nail it. I landed. I splattered everywhere. It was great.
Oh,
But
no.
you do have these experiences because you are working in your plantations, you're working in homes you're not used to, and you're always careful, but there are
Yeah.
things that happen.
Yeah, and old staircases are always a bad recipe because they're all inconsistent,
Yeah,
between locations. Some are shallow steps, some are deep steps, some are tall, some are short.
true.
You just never know what you're going to get into.
Nope.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing that he, stuck his arm out there and at
He
least,
saved me. I would have
yeah,
hit my head, and I don't even want to think about what would have happened from that
yeah,
height. So,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, but overall, I mean, it sounds like a pretty cool experience as far as going to be able to help the people that were having issues and experience the things that you got to experience and capture some pretty compelling evidence, which is really cool. That's what keeps us all going. Paranormal investigating. If you're not investigating psychically, it's mostly 95% boring, but it's that 5% of holy crap,
I know.
that that keeps you going. So I mean that's really cool. What's any future plans with the show and or
Yeah,
anything you can share?
yeah. I have, from that show, I actually started working with, I branched out and been working with different shows. I've done guest
Portals
appearances.
of Hell.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the Osbournes Want to Believe. I've done several of their different shows at this point. And it's just incredible to be able to work with so many incredible people wherever they are in their own thought process with the paranormal that share. Katrina
Yeah.
is amazing. She is everything everyone thinks she is. She's authentic. She is incredible investigator. So that's one thing that I've loved, is learning from all these amazing people wherever they're at in their, I don't know, place in the paranormal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's what we all need. Whether we've been doing it for 20 years, 30 years, or 2 years, having those, again, it comes back to what we were talking about earlier, coming together and having a group of people that are open to anything that's possible.
Right.
And so it all kind of comes back to that. So, well, I got to ask you because, you know, growing up, my dad was an Ozzy fan. And I am. So what was it like going on the Osborne show and meeting the family? I mean, obviously, I want to know what you thought of Ozzy, but everybody else too. What was that whole experience like?
Literally it was driving up and then saying, knock on the door. And I walk up, knock on the door, and there's Sharon Osbourne. And I was huge into the Osbourne show. Like I loved that show. I loved Jack. I loved Kelly, but I had a special place in my heart and always will for Sharon. And so when she opened that door and she was standing there and she literally just said, come in, welcome, Sarah. And I was like, oh boy, this is big. This is big. This is amazing. She is beautiful. And I'm trying not to act goofy. And then they immediately take me in and there's Ozzy Osbourne. Not like on TV, but right there. And I'm like, it's very nice to meet you. What
do you say?
I don't know, but I sure didn't do a good job of it. And then we went right into work. And so it was like, we went right into work. And so I started doing what I do and I started telling them what I'm getting and their daughter comes up. And so here I am talking about Kelly and talking about what she might be experiencing and talking about this with parents. It still was Ozzy and Sharon, but we're talking about parents who have a sensitive child and to say, this is what I think. And I remember Ozzy stopping at one point and he just looked at me and he was like, tells me about Kelly. And then when he's done, he just kind of looks away. And that moment was the most like intense. When he talks to you, he talks into you. It was amazing. And, and then I shared with what I got. And then I left the house. And later on, Kelly came. And she did her portion and came out and was like, who drew this? And that's all I hear from behind me. I want to know who drew this. And I'm like, and she came out, she goes, you drew where we were. And I was just like, oh, hey, thank you. I think. He's like, whoa, I don't know. So I will tell you, Sharon is amazing. She's everything that you've ever seen. She doesn't fake anything. She is who she is. Ozzy was amazing. It was an honor. Kelly melted me. She had a heart of gold. And Jack is Jack. I love Jack Osbourne. I have to be one of his biggest fans. So it was just this experience of meeting his family and really getting the honor to work with people that question that type of stuff, and then others in the family who don't question it at all. And to see that dynamic like we have everywhere in the United States, in Osbourne's home, it was just really cool to be a part of.
And to see the family dynamic, which we all have in our own ways in every one of our homes too. So that's really cool. So I want to go back. I think we missed a question and I can't remember who it was from. It was, there it is, from Rhonda. Who is the most famous deceased person that has come through in a reading? Ooh.
Robin Williams.
Really? Oh, wow.
It was accidental. I will tell you, I don't do that. I do not read famous people just because I can. I would never write a book talking. That's just not my thing. I'm going to let them be unless I'm talking to their loved one, which I have done famous people for loved ones. But I would say Robin Williams was the famous one that I accidentally, because someone talked to me and all of a sudden he's standing there and he's like, hey. And he starts telling me these things where I'm like, I don't know who I would tell that to. And he just told me some things about the situation, what happened afterwards. And he just was sharing. And I remember thinking, wow, I know this is him. He's telling me things that there's no way. And I got to see a portion of his house. He showed me certain things and it was really interesting. So I would say Robin Williams is who the most famous and the most touching that I've read.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, it sounds like because you didn't really know the message or what it was supposed to go for,
Mhm.
but maybe maybe in some way the message was for you.
It definitely was.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
something that you had going on, and from everything I've read and heard about him, is he was a very caring person,
Without a doubt.
and so
Very
he might.
sensitive also.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Oh,
Okay.
without a doubt, that man was tuned in for sure.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I could
Yeah.
see him being, pretty strong
Mhm.
empath.
Yep.
Yeah, and which might explain, some of the challenges he had in his life, that nobody really knew about. Yeah, exactly.
Now
So,
you're getting it. Yep.
yeah, that's really cool.
Yep.
And it kind of makes me think, maybe your radio tower, your signal tower, he picked up on it. By the way, real quick, because we're getting out to the end of the show here. Time's flying by.
It was so much fun.
Yeah. So I've asked this of a few of my guests, and it's always interesting to see. But with some of the experience that I've had with spirit and those who have passed on, and where they go and what they do after they pass away, and things like that. How much do you think Beetlejuice got right? The movie Beetlejuice.
Oh man, you know what? Again, you're talking to me, man. You're talking to me. Ghostbusters also, like, just we could go there for hours.
Yeah.
For me is when you see something like that and they nail certain things, you go, how did they know? Because how did they know? And they explain karma, and they,
Yeah.
but they're doing there's a lot of stuff, waiting in the waiting room, and it's like, put me in, boss, put me in. Like, it's like, yeah, but I'm being serious though. There is things where I'm like, no, I see that. Like, it's not
Yeah.
necessarily sprinkle, sprinkle, squeaky, squeaky, but
Right.
it's, yeah.
It seems like there really are some sort of stations that people
Yep.
go to learn or to make that decision to go to the light or not.
I agree.
I look at Earthbounds and ask what you think. I call the light, the proverbial light that we
Yep.
go to and we can come back from. I call
Yep.
that kind of the soul's car wash.
Oh, I like that.
Where it gets rid of all the stuff that was holding you down.
Yeah.
Here in this plane,
I
everything
like
that held
that.
you down. There's got to be some. Is it just is it just immediate enlightenment? Because I feel like some people go away for a while,
Mhm.
and where are they
So do I.
going? Are they kind of learning to
So do
cope?
I.
Cope with being gone from and letting go of this side of things. And so I was just curious if you thought Beetlejuice got some things right, because
Yes, I do. In many ways that I don't know that, I could talk on it for a long time.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And funny side story too is my wife and a friend and I, we were in Vegas a couple years ago, and they had a Tim Burton exhibit down at the old Neon Museum,
Oh, wow.
and we were kind of joking through the whole evening about Beetlejuice, and my wife said his name 3 times. And then we went to Old Town, and guess there he was on stage, and it was a cover band, and the front man was dressed as Beetlejuice. And we're
That's
like, "Oh my god."
amazing.
We're like, "Oh my god, you did it. You said his name 3 times. Great, he's here."
Let's see. There's some serious truth to that.
Yeah. Oh, it was hilarious.
That's awesome.
It worked out that way. My daughters are waving at me.
Yay.
So, well, we're just about out of time. So I want to make sure we circle back, and if you're interested in Sarah's work or signing up for one of her classes, where you can learn a bunch of different things about becoming psychic or
Right.
growing your psychic abilities, getting the empowerment to be yourself,
Yep.
go to mediumsarahlemos.com.
Yep.
And that's a Sarah with an H on the end of it, so don't forget that H. And check her Facebook pages out, and I hope to see another season of the Ghosts of Morgan City. And I'm sure you'll share that when you can,
You bet.
because there's all the secrecy and stuff, but
Always.
and then be sure to go to her website, follow her on all the social media platforms so you can see what she's doing. You're a very busy person. Thanks for taking time out to talk with me tonight. I had a lot of fun talking with you, and I like your take on things. So I really appreciate you coming on the show. Next week, I've got Michelle LeBaron, the Ghost Magnet. Yep. And then the week after that, I've got Darren Thompson from Whisper here in Washington. He's an excellent investigator. Great one of those open skeptics, I would say. And he knows his tech stuff, and
Awesome.
it's amazing. Most of the time my face hurts after talking with Darren for a while because they just smile so much.
That's wonderful.
And then I've got Mary Beckman coming on August 24th, and Psychic Medium and Kasha Amenti coming on August 31st. And then so soon I'll be announcing September shows. But I want to thank everybody for commenting tonight. Thanks for joining the show. I hope you'll tune in next week as well. Huge thanks to Sarah Lemos for coming on. And I leave every show with a toast that the past is history and the future is a mystery, but today's a gift because it's the present. And myself included, we all need to be reminded that every day we should take a moment to be present, know where we're at, know who we're with, know what we have, and know what we are thankful for. If the world did that, imagine what we could do. But don't think about yesterday. Quit thinking about tomorrow for 10 minutes. Take this time right now to be present, be thankful for what you got. And we're here on the Paranormal Pete Show on WLTK-DB.com. Let's Talk Radio. And I'm your host, Peter Obey, with special guest Sarah Lemos. And we'll see you all next week. Have a great week, everybody.